So namaste and welcome to Satsang this evening. I wanted to use this time together for this most important reason that we're gathered together, perhaps to do some very direct investigation into the real nature of the permanent nature of what we are. And self-inquiry comes in many shapes and forms, and it's kind of very direct. It's perhaps the most direct way that I've found to recognize what I am and to come to know that with a deep conviction as well. So we're going to do a little exercise, some guided some guided self-inquiry. And if you want to join in, you're more than welcome to do it with me, and just go through as much as you can and confirm inside yourself as I'm talking. See if you can confirm inside in your own experience. And the reason for this is because as we look for what we actually are, at what we actually are, rather than what we assume ourselves to be, we are undoing eons of assumptions about ourselves, that we are a separate being and that we have a beginning point and an end point. And perhaps most importantly, all the karmic patterns and everything that hang on this belief that we are a separate being are being undone as we look and look again in some direct seeing. So just coming to see that you are not a thing and that you are everywhere all the time, unable to be absent from anywhere, and that you cannot be only in one place only as the self, is undoing all of the suffering that is hanging on these particular ideas. And I really want to say that self-inquiry is not so much about finding the answers, but really challenging the assumptions. If we're looking to see what we actually are, then we are challenging these powerful assumptions that we've believed for a long time that keep running our life. Perhaps most importantly, keep us from realizing peace, infinite peace and joy and abundance of all things. So it's not so important to me, and I'd like to invite you to relax about this too, that you get definitive answers here tonight. Although you might do, and it's okay, it's great if you do. But really it's about the looking and the seeing. Every time we look and actually try to find what we are undoing our ability to suffer. And what if it was as simple as looking like we're going to do in the next few minutes over and over again until you are convinced that you are everywhere all the time, until you can no longer believe that you are only someone somewhere. You're not going to lose anything in this inquiry because you can also still enjoy your someoneness. What makes you unique and individual will not disappear. The only thing you'll lose in this inquiry is your ability to think that is all that you are. So I'm saying that because for me, there was a great deal of fear about what I might lose on recognizing my everywhereness. And it really wasn't like that in actuality. There was no sacrifice, only of false beliefs that were keeping me experiencing not enoughness in every way that we can experience not enoughness, lack, limitation, suffering. And we are not actually a separate being, but we have a sense of being someone, which is not a mistake. It's not something going wrong. It's a self celebrating its individuality, its uniqueness, appearing as a human being. And with this, powerful human brain and capacity for discernment, we are able to look and see and find out what we really are. So what starts as a looking and finding something, but it not being obvious, it's not being clear, every time we look again and again, and we're going to do this together now, we are becoming more and more convinced. What if the only difference between my experience and yours was that I'd done this more times? What if that was the only difference? That there was nothing else than we're going to do tonight than that I've done that you can't do, or something like that. So use that sense of being someone, use that doer that seems to be there to do this exercise over and over until you are as convinced as I am that you have never been only someone somewhere. So we're going to ask where we are, what we are. We're going to ask this the very direct question. And in truth, when we look, and again, just to follow along as much as you want to, see if you can confirm. Don't worry if you get lost a little bit along the way. And just follow along as much as you can. And just challenging these assumptions is enough. So if I ask you where you are, or what you actually are, most people would reference their body. They would point to their body and they would say, I'm here. This is where I am. But in purpose of self-inquiry, we have to go beyond anything that is temporary, not because it's wrong or bad, but because it's temporary. If we want to find the real permanent self that's going to remain here after the body's gone, that is here even now while the body's still here, we have to temporarily look beyond the body, the thoughts and the emotions that are happening, the sense perception. So where are you when you actually look? What are you? And if you look with me right now, where exactly are you? And what are you? Again, not counting your body temporarily, not counting your mind or your emotions, because those are going to go at some point. You know with a certainty that you exist because you can hear these words. Something is listening through your ears. But can you find precisely where you are? Can you say with a certainty, this is where I am. This is my location. Can you say what you are? And when we really look, and we really challenge this assumption that here is where I am, we find that we are here in some way, but we can't pin it down precisely where. There's no arbitrary point where I can say, this is where I stop here. And after, in this direction outwards is something other than me. So I am here. You can check that out. You do exist. But can you say with a certainty what you exist as? And again, it's an unfamiliar way to look at ourselves. So it is totally okay if it feels a bit weird, a little bit confusing. If we look closely at what we actually are, we can come to realize that we're not an object like our body is, like our thoughts are, like our emotions are coming and going, our experiences are coming and going, that we're not an object, as something or as someone. We can't actually say or notice a particular shape to our being. There isn't any recognizable thing that we could say, yes, that's me. We know where our body is and the thoughts going on and the emotions happening, sensations in that body. But where are you actually? If we really look beyond this vague sense that I am here, somewhere I'm here, can you definitively say where you are and where you are not? Or do we find that what we really are is something more subjective, something that is not locatable in a certain place, something that is not a thing. It's more spacious, more subtle. It's intangible to and invisible to our senses, what our permanent nature is. It's more like the air in the room that you're sitting in than your body. It's more like the space in the room than an object. Can you say then, if we take this analogy of the air or the space, can we still say that you know precisely where you are? Do you have a location? Yes, you seem to have a location when you're looking through the body and the senses and using our brain to think and all of that. But can you say with 100% truth now and conviction that I am only a separate being, that I have an edge or a boundary to my beingness? If we really look, what we find is this subjectivity, this no-thingness, this emptiness, consciousness, awareness, self, noumenon, all these words that mean that which is not a thing, in which things arise and appear. So you might not be able to say to me what you really are, but you might be able to recognize that I'm not a thing, an object that's coming and going like a thought. That's true for my body, but not for me. And if you are not a thing, then again, continuing to check this out with me, as far as you can go with me would be great. And each time you do this, you'll go a little bit further. If you're not a thing, then can you be over here or over there? Do those categories apply? Are you only where you're hearing these words? And are you 100% certain you're not where these words are being spoken? If you don't really know where you are precisely, can you say, I'm over there or I'm only here? Do those things apply to you now? Just checking out these assumptions with me, seeing if we can prove or disprove. Can you be only in one place if you are not a thing? Our mind says, there's two options for existence. I either exist as a separate being or I'm absent, I'm gone. And it believes only in existing as a separate being and existing as a separate being or the absence of a separate being. So we're going to look at the third option here. We're going to look at this third option. Somehow we're going to come to disprove that there is a third option. So if somehow I could give you now a map of the universe, if I could somehow hold up a sheet of paper and said, this is a representation, a map of the entire universe, and I asked you to point to where you are on that map. Show me, draw an X on that map where you are. You could tell me where your body is, couldn't you? But could you tell me where you are precisely? Again, if you don't have a location, a one place only where you are, if we can't point to a spot that says this is where I am and everywhere else is where I am not, the whole rest of the universe, then each time you look at this, it's going to become clearer and clearer that if you do not exist somewhere only, but you do exist, then you must be everywhere. And this is not clear at first, but as we look, it's not obvious at first. As we look again and again, if I can't find myself in one particular place, and yet I am here, so I'm not absent like mind says, I am here, then the only other option that remains for me is that I must be the entire map. I must be everywhere. And this is such an unfamiliar way of thinking about ourselves, what it means that we can't find a location, that it may not seem obvious at first. And as we look again and do this again, and we can do this as many times as we like, it's going to become more fun, more enjoyable, more familiar, more recognizable. That I always exist everywhere at all times. There's all of this. And I'm also experiencing a temporary sense of being someone, somewhere, just a sense of it. As I look through a human body, it gives me a sense of being someone, somewhere. But my true nature is that which is everywhere at all times. So this is exactly what I did, and I did it again and again. I became kind of obsessed with what it meant that I couldn't find myself in one place. I was obviously here, but I couldn't say with any certainty, I am over here or over there. And if I can't find myself in one place, in a location, what does that mean for all the other beings that seem to be in my existence, that seem to be in my world, that seem to be in the world? Are they really still as reliable to recognize as other than me if I am beginning to recognize my every-awareness? So let's just look again. Let's check one more time, just for the fun of it. And again, it may not be clear that you're everywhere, but it's enough to consider this third option. Mine says, I'm either present somewhere here as a someone, or I'm absent. It cannot really grasp that you are present as the every-awareness, as the space of beingness in which this someone, this sense of someone arises. You're also that sense of someone too, but can you find where you are? Even if you have a sense, I only feel like I'm in my head or in my body. I don't feel like, I feel like awareness is only happening in my brain. I feel like that's where I am. And that when my brain's gone, I'll be gone. Even if you have that feeling, see if you can prove it. See if you can really look and see where you are. It's going to begin to undo this assumption. Where are you actually? And where are you not? And what are you? Are you a thing, an object, a form only? Even a subtle form like a being, a separate being inhabiting a body? Or when we really look, we come to this recognition that we cannot say where we really are. We're left with this sense always that I am here. But where is that here? Where is it precisely? It's not something that you can pin down on a map, is it? It's not something that you can say, here is my location. You can only do that for our body. And just to look like this, again and again, to become interested in what this means. Each time we look and confirm, I can't find myself in any particular place. It becomes clearer and clearer that I must be that which all the places are happening in. It becomes more and more obvious. And each time we look, a sense of conviction is building. It's enough to undo this idea that I'm only in one place in the universe. I'm only in one location, that I have a location. Here's the core assumption of all human suffering. I'm here, only here, and everything else is separate to me, outside of me. Everyone else is separate to me, outside of me. So just to look like this is the most important work we can be doing. Just to challenge this assumption that we all have. Just to come to see, I can't really say with any certainty anymore where I am. The more I looked like this, the more this feeling that I just don't know where I am developed, alongside a sense of I must be everywhere right now already, free, completely beyond the body-mind, although totally able to use those and enjoy those. And as you look like this, every single time you look, you are becoming more and more immune to suffering as a separate being. If you don't know where you are, where you're located, and can even come to conclude eventually that I can't have a location, or my location is everywhere, then how do you know which are your thoughts, which are your words, which is your problems? How do you know which karmic patterns are yours? Do they all stick to you with the same enthusiasm if you don't know? And there may be some thoughts and going on and some emotions coming up and experiences happening to a particular body-mind vehicle. But are they your patterns, your problems then? And what happens to those patterns when you refuse to agree that you have a location? Here is the smallest shift in seeing. It leads to such a massive sense of freedom. Where is your mind if you don't know where you are? It's totally okay to lose your mind in that way, at least. I don't know where my mind is. I don't know which body is mine. Strange thing to say. And I'm totally capable of using this one still. It hasn't cost me anything other than my ability to suffer. It wasn't a sacrifice. So just to look like this is maybe the most direct and the most important thing you'll ever do. And to recognize that it's not really about finding definitive answers, because underneath there will be a growing conviction that I'm not at all what I thought I was, that I am something so much more wonderful, also including my someoneness and what makes me unique and individual, but also there's such an upgrade waiting for your self-definition. There is such a whole dimension of reality that can be experienced as you come to see this. Just not holding on so tightly to this idea that you are in one place only. Can the air in this room be in one place only? Can the space in the room that you're sitting in, what could space be? Can something that has no form be only over here or only over there? So as we're looking like this, we are breaking through eons of suffering, eons of habits of ways of thinking about ourselves. We could not be doing anything more powerful right now than we're doing. Let's just check one more time. Where are you precisely? Where is your being and where isn't it? And it will move from being strange and confusing and unfamiliar to feeling empowering, to feeling liberating, to feeling peaceful as you look again and again. And I would challenge you, invite you, if you like this direct seeing, to do this for 30 days in a row and see what happens to your life, your awakening, your karmic patterns, all of it. Do you even have any karmic patterns left if you don't know where you are? Is there anything that needs to change without a location? And we're not ignoring the body and the mind and the situations going on in our life with this vital looking. But we are allowing the resolution of those patterns from the truest place, from the most clear place. Naturally, from seeing that we have no location or that we're everywhere, our life is going to begin to reflect that. Our life is going to begin to be the expression of that everywhereness, that deep wisdom, that knowingness, that conviction, that certainty. And what if it's just simply a case of looking again and again? For a short time, being as interested in what it means that you can't find yourself in a particular place as we have been previously in this idea that I am this separate being. Just for a short time, until we turn the tide of this belief in separation. At some point, you'll simply forget how to think as only a separate being. It will just fall away. You can still do everything you used to do as a separate being, but you can no longer believe that's all you are, which is the root of all suffering. So again, if you feel a bit lost or a bit confused from this kind of inquiry, this very direct seeing, it's totally okay to feel that you don't know where you are or what you are. In fact, that's a very good answer to be not so certain in our assumptions. For some people, this may be too direct. For some, we might love it as much as I did and do still. If you do feel that there's something important here, then I would invite you to look again and again, as often as you want to, until it just becomes so clear. Each time we look, we're breaking through this fog of illusion. Okay, so I have some questions emailed in. I'll see if I can get through one or two of them this evening. If anyone would like to ask a question, I'd invite you to raise your hand. I'll take 3 or 4 questions on here on the live session, and we will see how many questions we can get through. So let me start with this first one. Feel free to raise your hand if you want to on Zoom here. So the first question says, "Dearest Helen, thank you so much for answering my questions. I do not take your pointings for granted, and I am benefiting so much from your love and kindness. This mind, this lifetime, has projected intense suffering. Labels have been many, from chronic melancholic depression, body dysmorphia, chronic this, chronic that, but thank heavens, realization or waking up is happening. I just wonder if you could clear up some ponderings that arise here. I've come to a place where it's been realized that no thought, image, sensation, or emotion defines what I am or determines my position. I'm realizing that the true self is beyond definition. I don't believe that thoughts, images, or emotions are truth anymore, or rather the unbelieving or undoing is a continuous work in progress, but it happens in love and not fear. My question is, I just hope I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as I don't have wants or goals really anymore, apart from the really simple ones like coffee, relaxing by the pool, walking in nature, and moving when I feel moved to. I feel that true desire is maybe just thought, emotion, and images appearing, along with a sense of expansion rather than contraction. My goal was really only to see all, including myself, through the eyes of love, as there was such intense suffering here, and that is becoming realized. But I can't help but contemplate that I should have more natural impulses and desire to live more intensely or richly in my human experience. I am a therapist and love my work, but I don't even advertise for more clients, as I have enough money to buy new things, e.g., cars, or do renovations, etc. But desire does not arise for these things. I ask because I really don't experience want for particular experiences or want for more, and I don't know whether I've just numbed want. As I write, I feel prompted to contemplate, could what I am stifle or numb natural desire? I suppose the belief that I could stifle my wants creates that feeling in me, really. I don't feel distressed with this, it just seems that my life would want to experience more passion or excitement or natural impulse to experience move through this body mind. As it feels here, this is a natural path of evolution for the human experience. I hope my questions are clear. Thank you again so much. Love and gratitude. So it's natural as we're coming to see what we are, that some focus naturally goes off of our outer existence, our world and our relationships necessarily for a little while, just to kind of come to a clear point of focus so we can recognize what we are. But it's not really true that that desire for more has disappeared. Maybe it's just morphed in its form. Like this very question is a desire for more seeing, more understanding, more epiphanies, more realization. And, we all desire to take another breath. We desire to eat lunch or whatever meal is next, wherever you are. And the desires perhaps become more introverted for a time. But as the fullness of what you're seeing begins to express itself in and as your life, then you'll find that the things that you've described are going to begin to happen anyway. Abundance of anything that you wanted will begin to come. Even if you don't want it now, it will catch up with you. You'll finally be able to let it catch up. But also, perhaps most importantly, there will be a deep and rich passion for life and excitement that begins to emerge about life, a curiosity and awe, a sense of wonder that begins to permeate your existence more and more. It's what you were describing. It's like how we were as a small child. Where you used to get out of bed and had no idea in the morning what the day was going to bring. It might be things on your to-do list, but there's a sense of excitement and curiosity as to what all this is, what we're going to experience that day. And that will naturally, that curiosity to find out what you are will begin to express itself as curiosity. First, the self wants to realize itself. What actually am I? And then it will want to move through your life as your life, experiencing what we would have called mundane things, but from that place of self-recognition. What's it like to go to work when I know there's no other beings at all? What's it like to do the food shopping and raise the kids and all of that from a place of clear seeing that there isn't anything outside of me? The self will want to, perhaps there'll be an upsurge of desire for that, and passion and excitement about for myself, there was this intense curiosity that reemerged. What is it like to experience all of this now? From a clear place of seeing without any of these myths and beliefs in the way. What's it like to be with my family or to go on holiday or do whatever we're doing without this not enoughness and this suffering mentality that we have as a separate being? What is that like? That's going to naturally re-emerge as your awakening deepens into a full embodiment. It's going to want to express itself as your life, your whole life, if you allow it to. A deep sense of passion and curiosity, and a sense of love, profound sense of love for all beings. Even if we don't like them, we can still love them. So as it settles in more, there'll be this intense urge to experience, like almost like for the first time again, because, I remember realizing that I'd never really experienced my life. I'd experienced what I thought about my life and myself and other beings. When I really began to see that I hadn't really experienced anything as it really was, there was an intense excitement that still remains and still builds today, more passion and purpose. And yeah, there's not many things that can make me jump out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning excited about life, but this certainly was one of them. So, okay. So I'll just read one more. Another long one. Dear Helen, I was blessed to find your YouTube channel several months ago. Since then, I've been drinking in your teachings daily and joining your satsangs whenever I'm able to. I find myself at ease with your gentle, unadorned style. I'm always reassured by your loving responses to the questions of others. I feel my seeing deepening with your guidance. When I first encountered non-dual teachings several years ago, I was immediately mesmerized by the beauty and paradoxical nature of words that were often only understood in my heart. Since then, my sense of doership, and with it my overwhelming feelings of anxiety, guilt, and regret have been waning. I've generally come to feel that life is unfolding in the way that it must, and from that perspective, I've found gratitude for the pain and loss I've experienced over the years, along with a much greater acceptance of myself and others. When difficult feelings arise, I usually find myself saying thank you inside, as I know they are sweeping the floors of my home, so to speak. I love that. Yeah. Over the past few weeks, however, I find myself feeling stuck. I have the image of a beached whale who, for all his efforts, cannot roll himself back into the ocean. Normally, when I feel this way, I just sit with the feelings for a bit, and I come back into a more expansive place. The me recedes, and I feel as though I am once again dipped in grace. Lately, however, even the quiet of meditation and the help of my favorite teachers does not seem to help. I'm finding it more difficult to come to silence. Even when I do rest as awareness, it seems to become obscured again, almost immediately, overwhelmed by a noisy mind and a deep identification with a deluge of feelings of insecurity, self-loathing, anger, and fear. Even my sleep is fitful and my dreams are full of anxiety. When identification is strong like this, I revert to a painful feeling that I have followed the wrong path in life, relationships, careers, etc. I feel as though my life should be different than it is. I cling to the idea that I've ruined my life or failed because I didn't have the courage or faith to follow my own path, even though I don't really know what that would have been. Once I arrive at believing that thought, I conclude that I need to take some drastic action to fix it. At the same time, I feel the kind of fearful action I would have to take to put things back on the right track. Fearful of the kind of action, I imagine things like divorce and so on. Funny thing is, I almost never feel this way anymore, so have been surprised to see it come back so strongly. I have a beautiful family and a very good life and would not want to turn our lives upside down. I don't know exactly what my question is, but I guess I'm looking for help discerning when it's okay to do nothing in particular, maybe always, and when there is a clear call to take action. Normally, I tell myself that if there is action to be taken, it will happen naturally. And I am certain that my life has improved in every aspect since I gave myself over to what is. That is to say, both action and non-action have happened over and over again, improving my relationships, my career, my financial situation. Nevertheless, when I am in this more identified state, I am not so sure. Am I just hiding from life? Will I die full of regret because I didn't live more honestly? Am I a spiritual fraud who is only in love with these teachings because they allow me to escape life without turning to drugs and alcohol? Or is it just an especially strong flare-up of asana banging pots and pans in the kitchen so that it can finally be seen through? I want to be free, and I want to express that freedom fully in the time I have remaining in this body. I suppose there is still some fear that this freedom will be hurtful to people that I love, even though all the evidence is to the contrary. Or maybe I have it backwards and I'm just afraid of the vulnerability that comes with being more open, creating an impulse to run away. It doesn't sound so terrible when I write it down, but I've literally been tortured by these feelings until I found non-duality. It's very scary to see them re-emerge so strongly. Any insight you can share on this topic of discernment would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for your wonderful teachings. Much love. So when something comes very strongly that has not been around for a while, when something knocks at your door or is banging pots and pans in the kitchen, I like that. It's always and only because these ideas are now no longer in line with what you have seen yourself to be. Your awakening is progressing. And because of that progression, these ideas are surfacing and therefore being experienced to get your attention to say, this is no longer true for you. This experience is no longer true for you. And if we get right down to the core of your experience that this question, this email is about, it is really about slipping back into an identified state, isn't it? And when I slip back seemingly into an identified state, all of this stuff comes, all these fears, all these anxieties, all these doubts about whether I'm even on the right path. Am I really waking up, or am I just kind of deluding myself and experiencing a nice state in which I can't suffer temporarily and then it seems to disappear? So I'd suggest putting your attention at that point. That's the thing. And this, all the rest of it that you described is the symptom of this seemingly slipping back into identification with body, with mind, with separate sense of self. And you said very clearly that you recognize when you're in recognition of what you really are, you know that this is real and true, and that the idea of being a separate being is what is false. So I would suggest your inquiry being at the most direct point, challenging the assumption that is causing you seemingly to slide back into this world of doubt and anxiety and fear. And there are lots of beings that will benefit from this very same inquiry too. Can I lose this? Can I slide out of this? Even though I seem to be experiencing this over and over again, I can recognize that my experience is coming from what I feel is possible for me. And maybe this experience of in, out is happening because there is assumption that needs to be challenged. And the only way we would know that there is a belief or an assumption to be challenged is if we start experiencing it again. So what if you have seen so clearly that you are not a separate being, that this idea now does not fit inside you anymore, that you can get it, lose it, keep it, all of that? What if this is actually evidence of your success and you're seeing that you no longer can tolerate this idea inside you, that you can, that you might be on the wrong path, that you might have done something wrong, or you're just a fraud, as you were saying, and you're not really getting it actually, you know, that kind of doubting Thomas mind that we have. To really suggest getting interested in this question, if, or whatever inquiry feels relevant. Can I really be fooling myself? Can I really lose this? do I have to keep having this experience of, sliding back into? Just challenging that assumption. If it remains unchallenged, we'll keep experiencing it. If we challenge it, is that still true for me now as a separate being trying to reach the self? Then I'm going to experience moments of feeling like I am the self, and also experience not being the self, feeling back into identification. And that feels true as a separate being. But as the self, is that true for you now? Maybe your identity has shifted over to the point where you cannot believe this anymore. You've been troubled by this idea. So I really suggest working at the core of this assumption. Are you really able to slide back into illusion? This was such an important question for me when I got to this point. I really had to investigate this because I kept experiencing it over and over again. And when I slid back into the illusionary sense of being a separate being, every single doubt that I'd ever had in my entire life about myself and the world and awakening and everything just seemed to pile on top of it. Every karmic pattern seemed to suddenly be in play. So I began to really question at the core of this. So hopefully that gives you some area to focus on. Imagine how your life would be if you knew that you could not delude yourself, because you are this. And you cannot slide backwards because you are this. Imagine knowing that with a deep conviction that you've always been everywhere all the time, and there is no someone that's trying to get back home in reality. Imagine how that will feel and what that experience will be like. And when a thought arises that would have caused you a lot of pain, it's just a thought arising. It doesn't come with the emotional charge then from believing it so deeply. So I hope that helps to answer your question. I'll leave the other one till next time. So if anyone has any questions they want to ask, I invite you to raise your hand, or anything that you want to share. We'll take up to another 3 or 4. Okay, Maria, when you're ready.
My question has to do with feelings. And
Could I just ask you to speak up a little bit, Maria? It's kind of...
yes, I will. It's about feelings.
Yep.
And it's a little bit related to the previous 2 questions. And it's I often wonder if I'm doing spiritual bypassing by not, as you said, the feelings that come up in this spaciousness that's non-localized. Can I call it even mine? Is there a possessiveness to say my feelings or my thoughts?
Mhm.
And culture, right now, there's a lot of talk about feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And you know, so when feelings of anger or fear or whatever it is that we label them, and they're really energies or sensations that come up. And I often find myself just sensing into them, and just sensing them into this vast spaciousness. And many times I find the blissfulness underneath it all, and it's beautiful. And then I'm wondering, then my mind comes up, a thought comes up. I don't know what is my mind, a thought comes up. Oh, this feels like maybe spiritual bypassing.
Mhm.
At what point do I know it's avoidance or not really feeling?
It's such a good question. It really troubled me for a while. If we're being authentically our real self in any moment as much as we can, then it's actually impossible to bypass, because the more I understand that this is just an emotion or a thought that's happening in a body, and it's not so much mine, it doesn't have to be mine, that possessiveness you're talking about, then the more able I will be to be really intimate with that emotion, the more I'll be able to feel it without actually our entire existence as a separate being has been bypassing. Things my life, my thoughts, my problems, my overwhelming emotions. Just making it personal and separate is making it so that we can't feel those things in their fullness. That's why we end up projecting it onto someone else or suppressing it or whatever we're feeling. So if we're in that space of awareness, as that space of awareness, some emotion comes up, there is no ability to suppress it there. That's something that the awareness, the real self, cannot do. And it will be felt in its fullness, probably alongside some peace increasingly, and maybe even bliss, like you said. But it won't be, authenticity is kind of the opposite of bypassing. And in fact, it's the only time that we can really feel what we're feeling without being in opposition to it. It's really good to check, and this is kind of, these doubts kind of come up just to make sure we're going in the right direction, and it's really always good to check them out, isn't it? Because we want to make sure that we're not avoiding anything, and the surefire way to do that is to be the self. It cannot and would not avoid, because it doesn't have those labels, like you were saying about, any particular emotions. It doesn't have the same memory that this thing is bad and should be avoided. It's not operating in that way. Does that help you? Good. Lovely. Thank you. Steve, when you're ready.
Oh, Helen.
Hiya.
How you doing? Are you all right?
I am. Are you?
Good. Not so bad, actually. Not too bad. I enjoyed Satsang. Each time you do something like that, it's so simple. This is really what we need to know into, or what we're trying to know, to understand. The controlling lady saga. I'm still with this one. Last time I spoke to you, said, "Is it true? I can't get what I've tried. Really loving the woman. Think this, that, and the other." And that's right. And you did say, if what did you say now? If that lady went, somebody else would probably come in and do the same thing. And lo and behold, the week after, for some reason, the lady had to leave the meeting, and this other guy got up doing it. He was doing exactly the same thing, so I was sort of chuckling myself.
It's like the self is insistent that it's not going to avoid looking at this pattern, right? It's just, yeah.
And the next week, or the next, I go twice a week, Monday and Fridays. But another reason, she went and sat in the car, so this guy took over again. But he did it right this time. He didn't do any texting, and he showed speaker view when people were speaking up. And I thought, oh, it's happening.
And then something, yeah.
It's coming. And I think the next meeting it was the same. And I've taken for, when letting people in the entrance, I've been sitting there from 7:15 till 8 o'clock. So I don't have to watch them performing with winding themselves up with or winding me up. But they are all getting wound up with it, maybe I'm getting out of that one. Anyway, okay, this time the microphone won't work. They won't get no sound. And she actually came out to So I thought, well, I'm not getting involved. I won't get involved. She eventually, about 2 minutes away, I walked in, and I still hadn't got any sound. So I said to guys, and one of them had gone home and had enough. So I said to the other guy we're doing, I said, just ask them to look after themselves, because it's not like we have a leader here. There's enough on them they can look after themselves. We'll quite have our meeting here, you know what I mean? And he's trying to type it in, you know, and here she comes, you know,
The
shoves him out, shoves him out.
pattern. Just for the sake of time, the same pattern still continuing in this place, is it? Yeah.
It is, yeah, basically. And eventually she would have started. I said, just tell them what I just said to my mate, you know what I mean? And well, I'm just going to. I said, no, we should start the meeting now. It's 8:02. We need to start the meeting. Well, I said, leave it, please. I just blow, you know what I mean? Please leave it alone.
So the experience is not changing until the seeing changes, until the belief. And what is the belief that's underneath, that's underpinning this?
I aren't sure. What I'm coming to, I'm looking at it now in a different stuff. I've blown anyway, so I'm up in the air. And this time, and then I'm settling it. We need to call a conference. It's like a group where you all get together and decide what you're going to do. And they do it on an iPad. And I look to what we're going on, and they're not disagreeing, but they were happy to go along with it. We'll keep going, keep getting it sorted out. And I disagreed. I think it's just a distraction from the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There's no peace there, it's just distracting, you know what I mean? So I put that in and I sent it off. No, normality, it was sound what I said. And then I thought about it. I thought, these people really, that's how they want to run that meeting. And I think there's a bit of vested interest because I started these meetings. I was involved in starting these meetings 20 years ago, and they've gone great for up to the last couple of years.
Can you see that underneath this is a belief that those are separate beings to you?
Oh, definitely. I've really tried all that stuff.
So apply what we've done tonight. If you don't know where you are, can you still agree 100% that those beings are separate to you? Can you say that with authority? If you are not a thing, and you seem to be having a challenge with another being, an other being or beings, can you still confirm, agree with, if we love truth as much as we say we do, and I know you do, can we still, with the same conviction, say, I am here experiencing this problem with this other being over there? Can we still say, are we still going to agree with that with the same conviction? Can you say with the certainty that you are only over here and that this other being, here is the root of it, that this other being is over there. I'm here in this location, and in this other location is this other being, or several beings. You know, it doesn't really matter from that perspective. But that's the core of any problem we're having in any relationship, is this idea, I know where I am, and I'm treating myself like a thing, an object, and I'm treating everyone else like an object. You know, if I assume the fact that I know I'm here in this one place only, then everyone else becomes other, suddenly becomes other, separate to me, outside of me. And that's what's really perpetuating this experience rather than anything else at this point. This is the core of it. Can you be sure that this problem is real? It seems to be when you keep experiencing it. But if you look like we have done tonight, can you say where you are and that there is some boundary or border or distinguishing line between you and these other beings? Can you really hold the same conviction with that? And it is so important to really look at this. Our mind resists looking this way because it says, well, if you don't believe that they're other than you won't ever solve this problem. But the mind, of course, has it backwards because it can't see that you are everywhere at all times. This is reflecting back to you that you cannot tolerate now this sense of other outside of you. That's why it's coming up stronger and stronger. There seems to be two beings in this karmic pattern, doesn't there? Seems to be. Can it exist? Can it still breathe this pattern with only one? It doesn't mean you suddenly become a doormat and let everyone, do what they want. It means that you'll be coming from the true place. Any words that you say or actions that you take will be much more effective. Can you still tell me now and agree with me that there are two beings in this particular situation, you and someone else?
No.
That's a good start, isn't it, right there?
But I'm certainly not enjoying the meetings. This is what I'm getting at, really.
What you're not enjoying, I'd like to be more direct than that. What you're not enjoying is the sense of otherness. I'd like to be really bold and say, you can't even find out if you're enjoying the meeting until you sort this out. How can you rest in your peace with this idea of otherness still playing? We might not, it might not even be the thing that we think that's bothering us. It might be this idea that these beings are outside of me that is now so painful that it's reflecting as this experience going on over and over and over again,
Well, I take on board what you said, but I've taken on board with that, and I've been trying to apply that in my life because I've been going along. And the conclusion I've gone really is, this is the way they want to run that meeting, which is fine. But I don't particularly like it as it is now. So the best thing I can do is come away from it, let them get on with it.
I'd have to disagree with you there.
I knew you would, but I'm still going to do it, though, I think.
Yeah, so. And, maybe temporarily do that until you really come to see, really question, is there any other beings than you?
I'll carry on doing that. I really will carry on doing that. Yeah.
Because you might just find that everything changes when you really question this, when you really look. I seem to be having a problem with this other being. And of course, you and I are talking like this, but this applies to everyone. Everyone has a problem with another being sometime, someplace, don't they? And our mind says, yeah, but if I stop seeing them as other, then I'll just accept the way they treat me or whatever it is. But it's really not the case. The exact opposite happens. I feel perhaps more empowered.
Look at it this way then. I have no problem with her outside of me. She's good fun. She's good laugh, and I love her. But when I start seeing the performance, I want to kill her.
Is the way that you're currently handling it resolving it?
No, not at all. I've tried. I said, me banging head in a brick wall. I think, Steve, maybe your best thing to do is, God don't want you here. Leave it. Let them get on with it. It's up to them. Maybe I'll find it's a bit more stronger, but for me.
All of this is a fictional tale, me and other. This is the first fiction, isn't it? Me and other being. But find out, what we've done tonight, we can do it again and again. And as you approach another human body, not necessarily another human being, but another body from that field of being completely undivided in that energy, everything that you encounter will change.
I can see what you're saying. I can that, you know what I mean? But if I was fully awake, I still wouldn't enjoy the way the meetings go.
How do you know?
Because I've seen how you perform when I used to perform. You didn't like it. You didn't want it. You moved me. And that's not having a go at you. I don't mean that, but something, Steve, this is still going the way it should be. It's chaos. There's nobody taking any notice anymore, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that as a poor me. It's just, that's how they want to run it. And I think, well, I don't like meetings, but I prefer a smaller meeting in a group like this where we can talk and chat and be honest and not listen to silly, I say silly buggers, it's just performing, trying to control everything and interfering. You wouldn't allow me to do that on here.
I would focus on what's most important for you, moving forward for you, focus on this otherness with the urge to eliminate it completely, eradicate it, this sense of other, and then see what problems remain for you.
It's not going fast enough.
If you're doing what we did tonight, it absolutely will. There is no more direct path that I found. That is about as straight to the...
Yeah. I know it, yeah. I do know it, what you're saying, yeah.
Okay. Well, let us know how you get on with that.
I'm leaving. I'm not going on.
Okay.
So decided.
All right.
Oh.
Good to talk to you, Steve. Take care. Okay, Shyster. We'll take Shyster and Maren, and then we'll leave it there for tonight.
Hello. Hi,
Hiya.
good evening. Yeah, beautiful satsang. Thank you so much.
Thank
and all
you.
the questions were beautiful too. So yes, my question, it may sound very strange, but I thought I should ask anyway. So it's to do with my body.
Mhm.
Again, at this stage, when I come, these patterns I have, these are reoccurring patterns, and I notice I don't know what to do about them. So at this stage, what happens is I start to overeat, and the body I feel as if, or the mind tells me that body is not important because you just eat and you're not the body and all that. And obviously I feel lethargic and I wake up very sluggish and all that. And I'm just sitting with it. This time I just need to sit, and the questioning which you ask, or at least taught us how to ask. I'm trying to, but I'm not able to go deeper, and I don't know where to start. So because I eat a lot, overeat rather, laughing, but it's silly. So
I've been there. Me and the fridge were best friends,
Yeah, so I feel as if it's in a way I'm finding security in this way, that either the void I was feeling or the mind was feeling, this other side I'm going. So just to anchor it eats a lot and it keeps it, and then I feel this, I wouldn't say separate self, but this the knot in your, it just anchors it and keeps it here, that you are the body, so to speak. I don't know how to ask a question, but
focus on it's very, very common, and it's reflecting back to you something that you're feeling inside, some belief that you're feeling inside, as always. So how does this pattern that's going on make you feel? You've mentioned a couple of things. It makes me feel lethargic. When I really looked at, I was overeating and carrying excess weight that I didn't need, that just felt like I was carrying something around that I didn't really need, that wouldn't go away. Something like that, this feeling. And when I looked, that was exactly how I felt about my karmic patterns. These are never going to go away. I'm going to carry them around forever. So my eating and my weight and my body was reflecting that back to me. This excess baggage that I'm carrying, that I can't seem to put down. There was a belief in not being able to move forward with it, move ahead with it. So I'd really suggest looking at, how do you feel about this situation in a very general way? Does this seem like something that you can't get over? Does it seem like is this just going to get worse, or is there shame around it? What are the general feelings around the pattern? Can you see that that's what it's reflecting? I can't feel light and energetic and free inside my being and have my body reflect back to me a sense of lethargy and stuck and blockedness and heaviness, that in a very literal way. It's my own feeling of being blocked or stuck or carrying something that I just can't seem to put down, that was reflecting to me in a very literal way, in terms of the figure on the scales, so it's looking at how that this whole thing makes you feel. It seems to, it's reflecting an attitude inside maybe about some part of your life or yourself or your awakening that feels a particular way, and this overeating is
Yeah.
sort of reflecting that to you in a very literal way.
It is, you're very much, yeah, it's very right, very true what you said. And there's a little, then when I sat with it, this little thing came up, which suggested that, because every time I would put on weight, I would feel worthless in a way that,
Yeah.
okay, you're fat and now you're not liked. So I sat with it, but I didn't really know how to move forward with it.
And what's the feeling if I say to you, why can't you just step out of this pattern now? And I know you're doing your best with it, but does that bring up some feeling? If I was to say that, why can't you just drop it now? You might notice some feeling inside of, yeah, but I've been trying and I can't, and it's never going to shift. And, some real,
It's that, yeah.
yeah, there it
You
is
can't
right
do it. You've
there.
been doing it for years and you
Yeah.
can't do it. Here you are
Yeah.
again.
Ever since
Put
I've
on
had
weight.
children, it's
Yeah.
just been, and I can't, and it's been going on all this time. Can you hear the stuckness, the blockedness in the
Yes.
that's reflecting very literally as this experience of not being able to break through this or change this, or and when I really looked at that idea inside myself, can it be different? That I was feeling weighed down, I was feeling heavy, I was feeling that it's hard work to wake up, and it was very literally reflecting as making it hard work to let go of this extra pounds that I had, that were just kind of, there was this apathetic, it's just never going to change, that this feeling inside that was reflecting as this experience with eating food, the weight, lack of exercise, all of it kind of has to stay the same, doesn't it, while the
Yeah.
attitude is
But it only comes more when I go deeper into myself. This is the point it happens. And I can see it's the same mind tells me, go to the fridge, get this and eat. And, and the same mind tells me, oh, you're not good enough, or you can't do it. I can see that very clearly. But what happens, because it's because of eating and all, you feel there's a sensation in your body and you are sort of associating with it that you are the body. So
it's not really work. If I eat something to get a temporary buzz or temporary pleasure, it doesn't really work, because we're eating it and then we're feeling bad after we've eaten it, or while we're eating it even. So just to kind of examine that mechanism, is comfort eating, which it was for me, is that really actually working? Is it giving me comfort or joy or pleasure, or even a respite from suffering? And when I really looked at it, it really wasn't. Just to become aware that it was actually making me feel worse. It was real profound seeing that this comfort eating wasn't even giving me what it was advertised to do. It wasn't even giving me comfort or security or whatever we're looking for. So just to look at the why it's going on and how I feel around it is going to show you the ideas that are in place there. And challenging, can I be stuck with this? Is it really true that this can't change, that I can't have what I want here, which is a healthy appetite, a healthy body, vitality, whatever we want? Why can't you have that? If I ask you that question, the only thing you can give me as evidence as to why that can't happen is your previous experience of not getting it. And some belief will speak. It's just it never happens. It doesn't happen. Can you hear the belief speaking in it?
yes,
I'm powerless to change this. I can't do anything about this. I've tried and I've tried, but we've been trying from and through this belief that it's just never going to happen. This kind of feeling.
yeah,
So as you release this belief, question it more, you're going to feel lighter, you're going to feel more empowered, you're going to feel more invigorated and inspired. And that's got to then begin to translate to the experience with the body too, because the body is a very literal reflection of ourself.
Yeah, it's shifting just now. I'm listening to you, and
Just to get to the core of what it is, it was like I was dragging my body around with this real feeling that there's nothing I can do about it. It's never going to change. And I went, wow, that's really how I feel about awakening. That was just, there's a moment where it's really clear. How can I ever have the experience with my body the way I want it to be if I'm sure that it's never going to change? It's got to keep going around the same cycle, you know.
Yeah, no.
And then your appetite will probably reduce. You'll get pleasure from eating, you know, real joy out of eating rather than a momentary buzz. The flavors will taste better, more profound, and you'll be more motivated to go for a walk, get fresh air, you know, all the things that need to kind of happen to feel how you want to feel physically will begin to line up and fall into place once that belief has fallen through there.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Very, very good. It's very common, so I'm glad you brought it up. Thanks. Okay, lovely. And last but not least is Maren, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
I actually accidentally raised my hand, but now I'm here. I might as well say something. Yeah, I just wanted to say I was deeply touched by the inquiry, and I started crying and I couldn't stop. For me, it's it's the core, and I've been feeling so much peace and joy the past weeks, and almost surprising, like when emotions came up, they came up, but they were like, it was so light. I was like, huh, what? Don't I have to go deeper? Or I just couldn't even, like, what's happening?
Yeah.
It's like it stops or something, and it was just such a new experience for me to have such a lightness around it, and I could experience the peace like all the time. So that's beautiful. And I've been asking a lot, is it really true I'm separate to anything? That's mostly the question I'm keep asking, like, all the time. And then today I was with a coworker, and I have like my own business. I coach people, and she said something about taxes and that you have to put money aside, and I noticed that triggered me.
Yeah.
and then I don't know if I have to go into the belief of, am I separate to money, or am I not safe? Because there's also safety attached to money for me. Or is it just in general what we did tonight, like the feeling of separation, and then this is the part that still lures me into identification, or
If you're asking the question, where am I, what am I, you're going to have this more expansive seeing, but you're also going to be shown where you still feel you have a location, where you feel separate to something or someone, as we've been saying. And for me, money was the same, you know. It brought this real panic, and there's a real realization that I felt very much it was outside of me, that it might not come when I need it, you know, that it's its own entity that's completely outside of my control, you know, that kind of feeling. And that was that. If you can see when that trigger happens, that there's a feeling of separateness, and then just go back into the expansive view of self without a location, then just, you know, drop it and go back into that. But if you find it lingers, you know, this you know, this kind of feeling that happens, it might be that there just needs to be a little, am I really, for me the question, is there really such a thing as money? You know, is there really, you know, really it's not an actual thing, is it? It's paper, notes, it's a piece of plastic, it's some metal coins, you know, and yet it's been given all of this ooh and ah, you know, an importance, and it represents security, like you said. For me, it represented freedom, power, all these things that were tied up in it. So you might be asked to just examine what it represents to you, and disentangle those from the actual money. That what you really want is security, what you really want is freedom, or whatever, you know, meanings it has for you, associations. So if you can just drop it, do. But sometimes something will come up that needs a little investigating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes things clear. Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful. Good to talk to you. Okay, lovely. We'll leave it there for this evening. Thank
I'll
you all
just
for-
say, Alan, that I took on board what you said.
Okay, good.
I felt like I would have logged it, like a bit of deja vu going on there, and I realised I was at it again. Do you think that I'm backing off? I'm not. If I see it through, some will get sorted out. If I back off, I'll have to come back to it. That's what you're saying. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not one or the other. You can do both. You can back off from that particular situation whilst you investigate. You know, so.
Okay. Well, I'm somewhere else to go tomorrow night, but Monday I'll go for conscious mind, see if things get aired out, see if it changes. I don't know.
Good. Lovely.
I'm with you, love. I'm with you. Taking notes for you.
Lovely. Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll leave it there for this evening. And lovely. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.